The Gibson ES-335 is the world's first commercial thinline archtop semi-acoustic electric guitar. Released by the Gibson Guitar Corporation as part of its ES series in 1958, it is neither hollow nor solid. Instead, a solid maple wood block runs through the center of its body. The side wings are hollow, and the top has two violin-style F-holes over the hollow chambers. Origins: before 1952 Gibson produced only hollow-body guitars, which are prone to feedback when amplified loudly. That year saw the introduction of their first solid body, the Gibson Les Paul, based on Les Paul's experiment, the log, which was merely a fence post with a neck, hardware, and pickup attached. By 1958 Gibson was making a few solid-body models which had much lower feedback and better sustain but lacked the darker, warmer tone and unamplified volume of hollow bodies. The ES-335 is an attempt to find a middle ground, a warmer tone than a solid body with almost as little feedback. Though semi-hollow bodies like the ES-335 are essentially a compromise of earlier designs, they are for this reason extremely flexible, as evidenced by the ES-335's popularity in a wide range of music, including blues, jazz, and rock. With a basic price of $267.50 it quickly became a bestseller, and has been in continuous production since 1958. The first major update came in 1963, with the most visible change being the markers on neck. Early models had dots, later models had blocks. Some models feature a coil split switch, which allows the humbuckers to produce a single coil sound. The ES-335 Pro, ES-335 TD CRS and CRR models were equipped with Gibson Dirty Fingers humbuckers, which had a significantly higher output than the standard pickups. The company has produced a number of signature guitars as well, such as Trinay Lopez-inspired model with narrow diamond-shaped sound holes replacing the F-holes, a Firebird-style headstock with all the tuners on one side, and slashed diamond inlays. In September 2007, Gibson introduced the DG335, designed in collaboration with Dave Grohl, a variation on the Trinay Lopez Gibson. The Grohl model has a stop-bar tailpiece and Gibson's new burst bucker humbuckers. Other signature models include the heavily customized Alvin Lee Big Red 335. A reissue of the 1963 model was a 2014 Editor's Pick and Guitar Player magazine, at $4,000, variations, ES-355. The ES-355 TD was at the top of Gibson's range of thinline semi-acoustic guitars. It was manufactured from 1958 until 1982, fitted with baritone stereo option, as ES-355 TD-SV released in 1959. The headstock is a split diamond inlay rather than the smaller crown inlay on the 335/345, in addition to a multiple layered binding. The fingerboard inlays are inlaid mother-of-pearl blocks, beginning at the first position of the fretboard. In addition to the headstock, binding is also applied to the fretboard and both the front and the back edges of the body. The ES-355 was available with a vibrola tremolo unit or a Bigsby vibrato tailpiece. It has also been offered with a stereo output and baritone tone filter circuitry. When fitted with the optional stereo wiring and baritone, the model was known as the ES-355 TD-SV. The best-known user of this guitar is probably B.B. King, whose trademark guitar, Lucille, was the basis for a 1981 signature model. It has the optional stereo wiring and baritone circuitry as standard. It differs from the ES-355 by having a maple neck instead of mahogany, the name Lucille on the headstock, and the lack of an F-hole on its top. ES-345. The ES-345 was first produced in 1958 as upscale version of ES-335. Although the design is very similar to the 335, the 345 featured a multi-position baritone switch located just above the lead tone and volume controls, which added various combinations of coils and capacitors to the electronic pickup circuit of the guitar in order to alter its resonant frequency and add color to the sound. The ES-345 also featured an optional stereophonic output jack, gold-plated hardware, large splitted parallelogram fingerboard inlays, and a thicker 3-ply edge binding than that of the ES-335. Notable users were Freddie King, John McLaughlin, Jorma Kaukonen, and Elvin Bishop. It was discontinued in 1981, 1 year after the Gibson Lucille was launched. As of 2012, the ES-345 is available as limited edition of Epiphone, as well as the ES-355. The differences between two models are EB2 and EB2D. The EB2 was first produced in 1958 as the base version of the ES-335. Having the same body as the ES-335, it held a 30.5 inches scale neck and hardware borrowed directly from the Gibson EBO. In 1959 a baritone switch was added to strangle the massive output from the neck humbucker and give it more of a guitar-like sound. The EB2 was discontinued at the end of 1961, being replaced by the EB3. Due to a boom in the use of the EB2 and its sibling, the Epiphone Rivoli, in the Merseybeat in England in the early 60s, production restarted in 1964, with a two-pickup version called the EB2D being added to the line in 1966. In 1972 the EB2 line was discontinued. CS series, the CS-336 is a smaller version of the ES-335. The back and sides of this guitar are constructed from a single piece of carved mahogany, and its reduced size is closer to that of the Les Paul. Also available, the CS-356 has gold-plated hardware and multiple binding on the body, neck and headstock. In 2007, Gibson introduced the ES-339 with the size of the CS-336 in the laminate construction of the ES-335. Other models based on the 335 include the ES-333, the ES-340, the ES-347 and the Gibson Les Paul signature bass. Although the ES-330 resembles the 335, it is actually fully hollow and features two P90 pickups, and was designed as the successor of the Gibson ES-225. Epiphone. Gibson also markets a much less expensive version of the ES-335 under its Epiphone brand, called the Dot. Other Epiphone semi-hollow body-style models include the Sheraton, the Riviera, and the Dot Studio, though some of those are modeled after other guitars in the ES series. From 1958 until 1970, Epiphone guitars were produced in Gibson's Kalamazoo, Michigan factory, and shared the similar design, materials and electronics as their Gibson counterparts. The Riviera, Sheraton, Rivoli and Newport models shared similarities with the Gibson ES-335, EB2 and EBO models, respectively. In 1970, Epiphone production ceased in the Kalamazoo plants and Epiphones were made at the Matsumoku factory in Japan. Later Epiphones were constructed under contract with Samick in Korea. These early Epiphones are generally thought to be of good quality. Currently, all Epiphones come out of the Gibson Qingdao plant in China, also of very good quality. See the Epiphone entry. As of 2012 Epiphone also produces the ES-335 PRO, ES-339 PRO, ES-345 Stereo, ES-355, and the Lucille. See also, List of Gibson players, Gibson ES series, references. External links, ES-335, from Gibson's website.